Percent inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled, we had to strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled, we had to strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
A beautiful good morning and welcome to another wonderful day right here. This is the day that we have seen, and we are glad that we are able to see this day. It is Sunday, and of course the 25th day of May 2025. I think May is trying to wind out, but then it's so great that you are here today. Happy Sunday to all the Christian faithfuls and everyone around Nigeria. Some are in church already, some are on their way, and some are back home watching global television right now because they need to be kept abreast with what is happening. If you're not informed, you are deformed, and we wouldn't want you to have that experience at all. That's the reason we try everything possible to make sure you have a beautiful day. And this is how we get your Sunday started. The attendance of the inauguration of the Pope, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was in attendance. And that was a great one. Some people have said this has brought Nigeria out to limelight. And this is a form of promotion for the country. And of course, taking us gradually to the global map. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo, and I will be with you from now until 9 o'clock, where we'll call it a wrap on Global Morning today. And don't forget that so many things happening, developing stories. We would want to remind you of some of the things that happened over the week, just in form of a review of the top stories over the week. One of the major stories is the fact that there are a lot of defections and a lot of people saying so many things about defecting. And of course, the issue of the People's Democratic Party, the Saraki-led panel. What's happening there? Some persons are saying the People's Democratic Party on a good Sunday like this needs to go pray and of course seek for ways to settle the rift. Internal rift, external rift, whatever rift it is, because that party has been in power, was in power for a very long time, and APC gave them a run for their money after the coalition. But the coalition for this time, I don't really know. Is it really going to work? Looking at the caliber of people trying to form this coalition. But one thing about coalition is that coalition, all right, seems to take people by surprise. You may not know the power of coalition until it's the deal day. But then the level of defection is something else. A governor defected in Nigeria and said, well, come on, I'm leaving and everyone in my cabinet will have to live with me. If you are not on my side, it means you're not on my side, you got to resign. And some Nigerians were saying, why would you say that? And all the Nigerians are saying, well, he is the governor, all right, the chief executive of the state. So he has the right to choose who he works with. But what about the people that are democratically elected into offices? What will happen to people in that category? So sometimes you put all these things together and you begin to think about it. But what Nigerians are really looking forward to is a party. A PDP chieftain once told me on my program here that the APC doesn't have an opposition. And I was shocked. He said, no, we are APC and we need opposition, but then we are not getting the kind of opposition that we want. And I looked at him and I said, Honorable, are you sure the All Progressive Congress don't have oppositions? Because I was thinking about the People's Democratic Party. But on his own part, he wasn't thinking about that because he felt whatever it is they are doing is not a match. It's not up to the capacity of the All Progressive Congress. That's what he meant in his own thought and opinion anyway. But then later on, we heard about the coalition, which has not really come to stay. There are still speculations. This person is part of the coalition. This person is not part of it. A lot of people are thinking that, of course, Peter Obi of the Labour Party is going to be part of the coalition. But as it is, I don't think he is going to be part of the coalition because the story, well, by the time we start looking at the national dailies, you see, I saw something briefly where he was saying he is going to run on the platform of the Labour Party. And gradually, I think peace is returning to the Labour Party. But the question is, the kind of followership that the Labour Party had in 2023, are they still going to have the same? Whether or not it is Peter Obi. Well, Peter Obi never got the chance to emerge, all right? He didn't make it. And, well, some persons will want to try as many times as possible. Because if you have a vision, you will want to pursue it to the end. But then he came out to say, well, I am not part of the coalition. If I am running for the seat of the president in this country, I'm going to do it on the platform of the Labour Party. But then, yesterday is different from today. Looking at the fact that there have been some rift in the Labour Party itself, would Nigerians still trust that party? Sometimes it's not all about the party. Some people look at individuals. Some people look at ethnicity. Some people look at tribe. Some people look at religion. So many things play roles, all right, in politics. But then I think it's high time we just focus on governance and just wait for 2027 to come. But some persons will tell you, you think 2027 is far away? It is not far away. It is very close. But then, no matter how close it is, I think the people have the right to enjoy the dividend of democracy before we know if there's going to be a continuity in 2027 by the All Progressive Congress or another party it's coming into power. But well, that's by the way, let's just keep that aside. What do you think about the president getting an invitation from the Pope? Who is the Pope? The Pope is the person in charge of the Catholic Church. And he's a strong religious leader, right, that have a say in affairs of different countries where Christians are found. Some people were wondering because they felt, well, I could remember what happened during the 2023 election when people were saying, Muslim ticket, Muslim ticket. And some person said, it's not all about religion. Now, we need to focus on the dividends of democracy and the growth of the economy. The economy have to grow, not about the individual. And Here we are today. We have the Muslim ticket worked out, even though a lot of people were not comfortable with it. But then that we have a Muslim president, a Muslim vice president, and the number one person in charge of the Catholic faith has to invite our own president. I'm sure about that. That's not all presidents of the world that got that invitation, but our own president in Africa right here was singled out, and he was invited and he attended. You see, let me say something. It is one thing to get an invite, and it's another thing to attend the inauguration yourself. You know how tedious the process is. Birth. The president of Nigeria made a difference. You know what he did? He was part of the mass from the beginning to the end. All right? That's to tell you that religion is sometimes, I'm even thinking, in my own opinion, even though I know everybody will have different opinion, we need, at this point in time, we need to look at ourselves as one people, one nation, all right, so that we can fight one cause, which is national development, growth, developmental growth, how we can have access to social amenities all over the states, down to the local government and everywhere. Thank God for the local government autonomy, that monies will be going directly to the local governments. Now, even though some persons said, well, the court have given the judgment, but we've not seen the implementation. I think the implementation is going to happen, all right, pretty soon. But then, I think after that visit to Vatican, so many things have changed. You may not know, but then the president beat the imagination of so many people by attending that inauguration. And that is great. That is beautiful. All right, as it is right now, we'll go on a quick break. After we return, we'll look at the pages of the National Daily. Stay with us. Welcome back from that break. It is still Global Morning on this beautiful Sunday. It is the 25th day of May 2025. And of course, we will look at the pages of the national dailies, beginning from the Vanguard newspaper. We'll move to the Nigerian News Direct, move to The Nation, get to The Punch, and as many that we would be able to take on the show this morning. And of course, I just need to say this. Every story here, all right, is from the editor. And of course, it is not the idea or a story by Global Television, but strictly that of the editor of the various national dailies. What's happening in Nigeria today? These are stories you can actually take seriously, not just what you see on social media, even though some of the stories on social media make sense, but then I think this is better. The Vanguard, Sunday Vanguard, is the first that we'll be taking. And above the nameplate, we have this one which says insecurity. That's the kicker. Situation critical. Declare state of emergency now. Ndume tells Tinubu, situation critical, declare state of emergency now. Ndume is the one telling Tinubu to do that. Well, if you see the papers right there, the Sunday Vanguard, if you see it, you will discover that the insecurity is written in red. And of course, the situation is critical. But then, looking at the insecurity situation in the country, just like a joke, it's cutting from one state to the other. But then one thing is that we keep talking about this situation, and the situation keeps deteriorating. Well, we pray that today is Sunday, of course. So as you're going to your church today, as you're doing your prayers for the Muslim faithfuls, just make sure you remember this nation in your prayers today. One writer to that story, and it says, repentant terrorist cannot be trusted. Methodist prelate Abba is the one saying that. Methodist prelate Abba said repentant terrorists cannot be trusted. And as come to talk about it, repentant terrorists, what are the things that will make you know they have repented? Apart from surrendering their arms, for how long will you keep them to monitor them to know that they really repented? What is the rehabilitation process? How are they being rehabilitated before released into the society? All of this matters, because what someone does for maybe several years, then one day the person will come and tell you he or she has repented. Then you need to sit down and watch. If someone tells you, I don't lie again, I don't steal again, I don't cheat anymore, you need to take time to process that confession. Then you also need time to monitor and supervise, all right, the activities of that person, whether or not the person has genuinely repented. So these are some of the things I feel the authorities should do, not just accepting people that say they've repented, especially terrorists, because an old bed never forgets how it cries, you know. So one thing leading to the other, they may go back. Some of them may even come into the society as spies, because we heard that some persons, even in the military, were serving, all right, as informants to these terrorists. And when I heard about it, I was so surprised. Why will you betray your own country? All right, remember, you were sworn in, you took an oath, you know, of service. But then, all the same, I think we need the prelate Abba has not said something bad, but then I think that's Oliver Abba, the prelate of the Methodist Church. Well, we need to look at it. Let's look into it and consider what he has said. Repentant terrorists cannot be trusted because anything can happen. Nigeria won't slip into one-party state. Senate Minority Leader is the one saying that. Nigeria, you know, a lot of speculations because of the defection. But the exodus is just too much. The movement of people into the All Progressive Congress. I'm not just talking about people at the world level. I'm not talking about ordinary card-carrying members of other parties cross-carpeting or maybe defecting to the APC. I'm talking about the politicians themselves, the kingmakers, the big names, all defecting. Majority of them, when you see a governor defecting, as a governor, it means if you defect to a particular party, originally it means your state have defected to that party because you are the chief executive of that state and you have the power, all right, to deliver your own state. That's how it's done in politics. So Nigeria won't slip into one party state. A Senate Minority Leader is the one saying that. Then we come to the major story, which is the star story on the Vanguard newspaper. And it says, all eyes, 2027 decision week. All eyes on Atiku, Obi, El-Rufai as coalition gathers momentum. But then, just below that, you see it written, I will run on Labour Party platform. That is Peter Obi saying that on page 4. Then, all eyes on Atiku, Obi, and El-Rufai. El-Rufai is someone that, I don't know, I just don't know. But then he was first the Minister of FCT. Then he became the governor of Kaduna State, and so many things happened in Kaduna State. He almost became a minister, and he didn't make it through the screening process, and that was how he fell out of power. He would have continued in power. Now, everyone wants to be in power. That's what power is all about. And now he's part of the coalition, and of course, Obi and Atiku. Let's see if these people will come together. But Obi has exonerated himself. He has said he is going to run in 2027 on the platform of the Labour Party, the party that actually brought him to limelight, the party that fought for him, the platform where everyone, at least, that was the first time I saw Nigerians coming out to vote en masse with lantern, with torchlight, with umbrella, because it was even drizzling that period. But then, let's see what happened. But he said, I'm going to run under the platform of the Labour Party. Okay, decision week. Let's see how this week is going to be. Today is Sunday, the first day of the week, while tomorrow is Monday, the first working day of the week. Now to the next story, which says Biafra unresolved 58 years after. Under Tinubu, the Southeast has only one minister and 3 assistant ministers. IPOB, Ojukwu's deputy's prediction about Biafra coming to pass. All right, details you can find on page 10. Then to the right-hand side of the paper, midterm report. How has Tinubu fared? A peep into the economy, education, interior agenda. All right. Now, let's look at the next headline, which says Trump, Malema, Ramaphosa and the Oval Office grill by Fani Kayode. Fani Kayode is the one saying that. Details read on page 27. All right, let's move away from there. Okay. The next paper that we have right here is, that's the size of the headlines from the Sunday Vanguard, but we have other papers right here. And the next paper is the Sunday Punch. Let's see what we have on the Sunday Punch. On the Sunday Punch today, we have a lot of very interesting stories. This one says a PDP crisis. That's the kicker. Southeast Caucus gives Saraki panel truce conditions. PDP crisis, Southeast Caucus gives Saraki panel truce condition. One of the writers to that story said, National Secretary, Convention top neck agenda on Tuesday, meaning they are going to be having the NEC National Executive Council meeting on Tuesday. And of course, the issue of the National Secretary in the People's Democratic Party and convention will be the top agenda at that NEC meeting happening on Tuesday. All right. This one says mass burial in Taraba as headers slaughter scores. Details on page 6. Then now to the right-hand side, I may not contest again after 2027, says Obi. I may not contest again after 2027. That's Peter Obi saying that. But then some people will tell you, these are politicians. They don't give up. Looking at His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, how many times he has contested, and I don't see him being tired of contesting yet. No one knows. He might decide to be a kingmaker. He might decide to run. But what about the age? I don't know. But then there are conditions, all right, on ground for anyone, all right? These conditions will have to qualify you to run for the presidential seat or not. But for Peter Obi, he said, after 2027, I'm not running again. After 2027, I'm not running again. I wouldn't want to run again. All right, that's Peter Obi. Let's just keep our fingers crossed. Maybe one day we will remind him of this statement. But then, how is 2027 going to be? That's what a lot of people are saying. How is 2027 going to be? Details you can find on page 4. Public safety suffers as army, police emergency apps collapse. Most Nigerian pastors are extremely poor. Bishop Igele is the one saying that. Details read on page 27. Now to the big story on the Sunday Punch newspaper. It says 2027. ADC leaders split over takeover by anti-Tinubu coalition. ADC leaders split over takeover by anti-Tinubu coalition. And some writers to that story, and the first writer says, we won't allow newcomers displace us, says chairman. Then the second one says, Atiku Obi ready to back neutral candidates to unseat Tinubu. ADC national chairs, the one saying that. You know, a lot of people said so many things. They said so many things. And of course, people are waiting. People are expectant. Who is going to be fielded in the coalition? And now they are saying Atiku and Obi will field someone different. But Peter Obi just said he's going to run for the last time in 2027. So who are they going to field? Is this some form of political statement? You know, sometimes politicians, they talk, but this is coming from the ADC chairman, that Atiku and, of course, Peter Obi will look for someone neutral that will be able to displace the sitting president in 2027. Well, all these are speculations and, of course, political statements until we see what will become of the coalition. Who and who are even part of the coalition? No one is sure. But for Atiku and, of course, El-Rufai, some persons are saying they are the core presence in the coalition, because Peter Obi, for me right now, is neither here nor there. But he has said by himself on the papers today that he's going to run on the platform of the Labour Party, and he may be running for the last time. in 2027, that after 2027 election, he's not going to contest again. Let's just wait and see how all of that is going to go. All right. Now, how I survived Kwara boat crash that killed 37 passengers. This is coming from a trader. All right. Okay. Addison says auxiliary nurses run private hospitals as owners shun professionals. Wow, that's serious. That's one of the major problems that we have because of the brain drain and because of the shortage of medical practitioners. An auxiliary nurse owning hospital? Oh, come on. Yeah, how comes? How comes? I don't know, but then this is not good because as an auxiliary nurse, you're not a professional. You shouldn't even treat people. If you are doing anything, it should be under the supervision of a doctor. And that's why you are auxiliary. Auxiliary is a support system, all right? That's why we'll have something like the auxiliary gear. It's just a support system. But it's so unfortunate that you hear this kind of things happening in Nigeria. How could an auxiliary nurse run private hospital? That's not a good one. I think the authorities need to do something about it. All right, let's go on a quick break. After this break, we'll return. And, of course, we'll continue with the rest of the papers. Stay with us. It is the Global Morning. It is the Global Morning, and this is Sunday. Are you still on your way going to church, or you're back home, or probably you couldn't make it today? Well, it's so good to have you join us on Global Morning today. We are now looking at the national dailies. In case you don't know how to get the frequency, for those watching online, we are live on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. And for those of you who may be traveling out of Nigeria very soon or get to places where you may not have access to your television, remember that we are on all social media platforms. And of course, you can quickly download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app on your iOS and Android devices to keep track of all our broadcasts from anywhere in the world. Now, back to the national dailies. We have the Punch newspaper right there. And on the Punch newspaper, you can see it's written that 2027 ADC leaders split over takeover by anti-Tinubu coalition. That is from the Punch newspaper. Moving away from the Punch newspaper, let's go to the Nation's newspaper right now. Let's see what the Nation's newspaper have for us. On the Nation's newspaper, I have this one which says, panic, lobbying over FCT's threat to seize properties in Abuja. Well, that was in the news a few days ago, and a lot of people were panicking already. Some of the properties have been seized already. They said some persons have not made payment for several years. And the Minister of FCT is doing everything to seize those properties back. You can see the picture of the FCT minister just by that story right there, and the details of that story you can find on page 2. Now, Sultan louds Tinubu for promoting religious tolerance. I talked about that earlier. Him attending that program, that inauguration of the Pope, is so much, and that's an example the president has set to let us, the followers, know that it is not all about religion. All right, it is not all about religion, because some persons are fanatics and they take the religion to the extreme. But it's so good that the Sultan himself is lauding Tinubu for promoting religious tolerance, and one of the writers to that story says, Nigeria, only country where Muslims, Christians interact peacefully. And it's so good. It's so good. This is coming from the Sultan. You know who the Sultan is. And now to the big story, coalition. Atiku draws battle line with PDP governors and others. Some writers to that story, it says Sean's Oshun governor, party chiefs during visit. Another one says Aregbesolas Adeleke's alliance heads for the rock. Okay, more writers from that story. Fresh confusion over proposed PDP NEC meeting. Like I said, that meeting is going to be happening on Tuesday, and the agenda is the national secretary and of course other things bothering the party. Atiku, Obi, El Rufai, Amechi, others meet today. All right, of all days they decide to meet on Sunday. Obi, I will run on Labour Party's platform in 2027. He's saying that on almost all the papers. Now to another story from the Nation's newspaper. And this one says, NNPCL shuts down Port Harcourt refinery for maintenance. Ondo 2024. Election Tribunal fixes June 4 for judgment. Details you can find on page 11. Ondo 2024 Election Tribunal fixes June 4 for judgment. Fani Kayode condemns Trump's attack on Ramaphosa MP. Okay, and that's the headlines from the Nation's newspaper this morning. We have other headlines that we need to talk about. But then, the issue of Trump's attack on Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa is the president of South Africa. You know, so many things happening since the emergence of Donald Trump as the president of the United States of America. I wanted to say Federal Republic of Nigeria. We don't have a Trump here. We have our own very amiable President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in charge, the one in charge of the country. But now let's get to what's happening in the United States as it has to do with relationship between the United States and other countries. What is happening is passing a lot of message. But the bottom line is, no matter what, there is no country, no matter how endowed the country is, that country cannot exist in isolation. There must be diplomatic relations. Okay, there should be a balance. There should be international trade. There should be investment. You know, investors coming to invest in your country. No matter how rich you are, people should be able to live and stay in your country peacefully. That's what makes a country successful. No matter how great you think you are, I'm not talking about those struggling for world power and all of that, but then I think we should have this consciousness that every country needs people to live with them. They need people to invest. They need diplomatic relations because they cannot exist in isolation. But then, no matter what the problem is between Ramaphosa and, of course, Donald Trump, it's something that can be settled. It's not a big deal. But then, how soon is the settlement going to come? That's the big question right here. Okay, let's move from the Nation's newspaper and get to the Sunday Times. That is from the Daily Times. on the Sunday Times this morning, we can see what's happening. NNPCL shuts down Port Harcourt refinery due to incompetence, Petron alleges. Due to incompetence. Who is incompetent right there? Is it I don't know. NNPCL gave assurance to Nigerians after the emergence of the Dangote refinery that the Port Harcourt refinery and Warri refinery were going to start working. And Nigerians took that assurance because after the subsidy removal, one of the things that Nigerians were looking forward to is now that subsidy has been removed, the money used for the subsidy can also be channeled into our refineries so it can work. And of course, we refine these products in Nigeria. Then, boom, Dangote refinery surfaces. And we can see a little improvement. Don't you think it would have been better if we had the Port Harcourt refinery working? Now, there is a total shutdown of the Port Harcourt refinery. There is a shutdown of the Port Harcourt refinery due to incompetence. So what will happen? How did we arrive here? How did we get people that are not competent in such a sensitive sector? You know, this begs for a lot of answer. These are questions begging for answer. All right, moving away from there, insecurity is the next story. Army arrests 3 foreign Fulanese, 2 Chadians in Plateau State. Details you can find on page 3. It's no longer news that some of the people terrorizing this country are foreigners. APC endorsement of Tinubu theoretical. FIHIC, PRP chairman. All right. Okay, APC endorsement of Tinubu theoretical PIRIC, and of course, it's coming from PRP chairman. Now, Sultan Abubakar endorses Tinubu's religious tolerance promotion for Nigerians. Details on page 7. Security operatives arrest 20 suspects for hacking 2025 UTME server. Yeah, the problem that students had during the 2025 UTME is no longer news, but then I think Director of JAMB has admitted that the error came from them, and of course, those that had the opportunity went in for a reset. All right, as a matter of fact, time is fast spent, but then there's one more paper that we need to look at, and that's the Nigerian Blueprint newspaper. Above the nameplate, it said, tensions in FCTA begins takeover of 4,794 revoked properties on Monday. Tension as FCTA begins takeover of 4,790 revoked properties on Monday. This is very sensitive. So after revoking it, what will happen? One of the major problems that we have in FCT is accommodation, housing deficit. I think these houses can be given to the less privileged, all right, because they will still remain. What will happen? I don't know. I'm just saying. What if the minister or the federal government decide to make it maybe a low-cost housing estate for Nigerians? Because these properties, do you know how many properties we're talking about here? 4,794 properties have been seized by the FCTA. All right. The Minister of FCT is doing his job. And of course, if it is being seized, what will happen? And that's going to be happening tomorrow. All right. The big story here says 2025 UTME jump glitches. How to prevent recurrence. Experts and stakeholders are talking to JAMB. How to prevent reoccurrence of that situation. Nigerians should ask governors what they've been doing with allocations Dr. Ovwede is the one saying that. All right, this one says investors stake 18.122 billion naira on shares Friday. Security concern. Idoma Traditional Council asks herdsmen to vacate their land. Idoma Traditional Council asks herdsmen to vacate their land. All right. Don't run in 2027. Afghan National Youth Leader advises Atiku Abubakar. Well, no one knows what's going to happen next. Right. He may want to run, he may not want to run. Now, finally, from the Blueprint newspaper, this one says Nigeria's growing fertility market. How students trade eggs, sperm for cash. That's not a good news at all. That's not a good news at all. All right. As a matter of fact, our time is up already, and this is where we'll draw the curtain for the newspaper headlines on Global Morning today. One very important thing is that you can pick a copy of these papers to go through it yourself, and it's expedient for you to know that every information, every story from this paper are strictly their property and it is coming from them. So let's keep our fingers crossed, keep watching Global Television, and have a beautiful day. Try as much as possible to put a smile on someone's face today, because a lot of people may not have what to eat today because of the economic situation. But the president has said there will soon be light at the end of the tunnel. A third term, mid-term. How are we faring in Nigeria today? Many thanks for staying with us on Global Morning this beautiful 25th day of May 2025. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Many thanks. Bye-bye for now.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies to, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything